Do you ever feel your body whispering, "Leave," before your mind can explain why? Have you noticed how certain rooms drain you even when everything looks fine on the surface? What if your intuition is the clearest compass you own, pointing you away from what dilutes your peace and toward what protects it? Welcome to time-tested advice, where ancient philosophy meets the modern world. I'm your host, Alfred. Let's get started. The body knows what the mind tries to ignore. For Sigma females, that simple truth shapes the way they move through the world. They don't always have to analyze a situation to know it's not right for them. Their intuition speaks in silence through sudden discomfort, a shift in the air, or an urge to leave without explanation. They may not always understand it at first, but their soul recognizes the places that don't align with their peace long before logic catches up. Sigma females are naturally self-aware and deeply sensitive to energy. They pick up on what others overlook: the hidden tension in a smile, the quiet competition behind a compliment, or the emotional heaviness in a room that looks cheerful on the surface. These women are not quick to judge, but they are quick to sense. And when a place begins to drain them, they don't wait for chaos to confirm it. They quietly withdraw, not out of arrogance, but out of instinct. They avoid spaces where authenticity is missing, where conversation feels forced, and where attention matters more than connection. To them, peace is not a luxury, it's a form of survival. They understand that staying in the wrong environment slowly erodes their clarity and dulls their strength. So while the world wonders why they disappear from certain circles or scenes, the Sigma female knows exactly why, even if she can't put it into words yet. Her silence isn't avoidance. It's self-preservation wrapped in wisdom. Let's dive into it. Spaces that echo competition disguised as friendship. There's a strange kind of tension that Sigma females can sense almost instantly, the kind that hides behind friendly smiles and supportive words. It's the quiet competition that dresses itself up as friendship. At first, it might look like love and encouragement, but something underneath doesn't sit right. The energy feels heavy, almost like every win she shares becomes a silent challenge for the other person. Sigma females don't play that game. They can feel when someone's celebrating them through clenched teeth. They can tell when the compliments come with comparison, when curiosity sounds more like calculation. It's not paranoia, it's perception. They have a way of reading what's unsaid, and it saves them from circles where jealousy is disguised as motivation. For example, imagine a friend who constantly asks how she's doing, but somehow every conversation turns into a competition. If she got a promotion, that friend suddenly talks about a bigger raise. If she starts a new hobby, that friend coincidentally starts the same thing, but tries to do it better. At first, she might brush it off, but deep down she knows the difference between someone cheering her on and someone trying to keep up. Sigma females withdraw from such spaces quietly. They won't argue or expose anyone. They just fade away. Their peace is too precious to be tested by people who measure friendship by comparison. For them, true connection isn't about who's ahead or behind. It's about mutual respect and growth without envy. They thrive around people who clap even when no one else is watching, who can celebrate others without turning it into a race. So when the energy shifts and the friendship starts feeling like a scoreboard, she knows it's time to leave. Not out of pride, but out of wisdom. Because for the Sigma female, peace isn't found in winning. It's found in being surrounded by people who don't make her feel like she has to compete just to be valued. Two workplaces where ambition lacks integrity. Workplaces where ambition lacks integrity. Sigma females are naturally ambitious, but their ambition has a soul. They don't just work to climb ladders or collect titles. They work to create impact, to grow, and to feel proud of what they build. So when they find themselves in environments where ambition outweighs integrity, something inside them begins to shut down. They can't fake enthusiasm for a system that rewards cunning over character. In workplaces where people step on each other just to rise higher, the Sigma female quietly withdraws. She notices the small betrayals, the exaggerated flattery to the boss, the silent competition between co-workers, the backroom politics that turn teamwork into a battlefield. To her, success that requires losing your values isn't success at all. She would rather walk away from a high-paying job than compromise her principles for recognition that feels hollow. For example, imagine her in an office where gossip fuels promotion. Everyone praises whoever holds power, even when they're clearly wrong. She listens, observes, but never participates. She focuses on her work, her ethics, and her peace. Eventually, she becomes too quiet for that environment because she refuses to play the game, and that's when she knows it's time to go. Sigma females thrive in spaces where effort is respected and honesty isn't punished. They give their best only when they believe in what they're building. They don't chase success that costs their sanity, nor do they celebrate wins earned through deceit. Their ambition needs a backbone. It needs to feel clean. This is why you'll often see them leaving seemingly perfect jobs to start something smaller but meaningful. They'd rather build slow with integrity than rise fast through manipulation. For them, the real reward isn't in the paycheck or the title. It's in being able to look at themselves in the mirror every morning and know they didn't lose their soul while chasing their dreams. Number 3. Situations that confuse drama for passion. Situations that confuse drama for passion. There are people who mistake chaos for connection. They believe that shouting means caring and that constant arguments prove intensity. But for Sigma females, that kind of emotional confusion is a red flag. They see through the noise. They know that real passion has depth, not volume. So when a situation keeps swinging between love and war, excitement and exhaustion, they begin to step back. Sigma females crave peace, but not the empty kind that comes from avoidance. They want the kind of peace that allows growth, safety, and understanding. When they find themselves in relationships or environments where chaos is constantly dressed up as passion, they feel trapped in emotional turbulence that doesn't lead anywhere. They can't thrive in cycles that feed on conflict and call it connection. For example, imagine a partner who picks fights just to feel alive, or a friend who believes closeness means constant emotional drama. At first, the intensity might seem thrilling, but over time, it becomes draining. The Sigma female begins to see the truth. It's not passion, it's instability. She realizes that peace doesn't mean boredom, it means balance. She's not scared of emotion, she's scared of confusion disguised as emotion. To her, passion should build, not break. It should bring warmth, not chaos. So she quietly chooses calm over conflict, clarity over confusion. People often misunderstand her silence, thinking she doesn't care. But her silence is wisdom. It's her way of refusing to play games that hurt the soul. She knows that lasting passion is not found in shouting matches or tearful reconciliations. It's found in consistency, effort, and emotional maturity. That's why she values peace so deeply, because peace allows her to feel everything without losing herself in the process. For the Sigma female, true passion is calm, steady and real, the kind that makes her feel grounded, not burned. Number 4. Gatherings that chase trends instead of truth. There's something about trend chasing that makes a Sigma female quietly step back. She can sense when people are more interested in being seen than being real. In gatherings where everyone tries to outdo each other with the latest obsession, she feels like an outsider in the best way possible. She doesn't chase what's in because she understands that what's popular today often fades tomorrow. What she values is timelessness, substance that doesn't need attention to have worth. Sigma females are drawn to depth, not display. When she finds herself in a circle where conversations revolve around brand names, social media numbers, or the latest buzzword, she feels an invisible wall go up. It's not judgment, it's misalignment. Her soul just doesn't connect with spaces where image matters more than intention. Imagine her at a gathering where everyone's talking about the next hot thing to do, wear, or post. Everyone's showing off a lifestyle that looks perfect but feels empty. She listens politely, but her mind drifts elsewhere to meaningful talks about purpose, ideas, and truth. She might smile and nod, but deep down she knows she doesn't belong there. Sigma females value what lasts. They're not impressed by trends because they've seen how quickly they fade. They admire authenticity, and that can't be manufactured. They would rather have one honest conversation that nourishes the mind than hours of talk that only feeds the ego. She believes that chasing trends is a way of running from self-awareness. It's easier to copy what others are doing than to face your own truth. But Sigma females don't run, they evolve. They stand firm in who they are, even if it makes them look different. So when a gathering feels like a performance rather than a connection, she quietly walks away. Not because she feels superior, but because she knows her energy belongs where truth still matters more than attention. Number 5. Relationships that demand her shrinking. There comes a moment in every Sigma female's life when she realizes that not every connection deserves her full presence. Some relationships only thrive when she hides parts of herself, when she speaks less, shines less, or dreams smaller, just to keep the peace. And that's when her spirit begins to rebel. She can feel it, the quiet discomfort of being loved only in fragments. Whenever a connection starts requiring her to shrink to make others comfortable, she senses the invisible wall and slowly steps back. Sigma females don't crave attention, but they do crave authenticity. They want relationships where their depth is seen, not feared. When someone starts mistaking her confidence for arrogance, her independence for distance, or her silence for weakness, she knows she's in the wrong place. Love that asks her to dim her light isn't love. It's control disguised as care. Imagine a woman who naturally commands presence. She walks into a room, and her calm confidence changes the energy. Instead of celebrating her strength, her partner or friend starts to feel threatened. They say things like, "You're too intense," or "You always need to be right," when all she's doing is being herself. Over time, she notices she's speaking softer, thinking twice before expressing her ideas, or pretending not to know as much as she does, all to protect someone else's comfort. That realization hurts, but it frees her. Sigma females understand that real love doesn't require shrinking. It allows expansion. The right person or circle won't feel overshadowed by her light. They'll be illuminated by it. So she chooses herself over approval. She leaves spaces that cannot hold her fullness, even if it means walking alone. because she knows that any relationship that survives only by making her smaller was never meant for her growth, and she would rather walk in her truth than live in someone else's shadow. 6. Crowds that drown individuality. Crowds that drown individuality. There's a quiet discomfort that creeps in whenever a Sigma female finds herself in spaces where everyone looks the same, talks the same, and thinks the same. It's the kind of environment where individuality slowly drowns under the pressure to fit in. For most people, blending in feels safe, but for her, it feels suffocating. She values connection, yes, but never at the expense of authenticity. The moment she feels that she has to bend her truth to belong, she knows she's in the wrong crowd. Sigma females are allergic to conformity. They don't rebel just to stand out. They simply cannot pretend to be something they are not. In crowds where imitation is the norm, they sense the emptiness behind the smiles and the fear behind the sameness. It unsettles them deeply, because they see how easily people trade their uniqueness for acceptance. To a Sigma female, that kind of belonging is nothing more than collective insecurity dressed as unity. Imagine being in a group where everyone agrees on everything, not because they actually believe it, but because disagreement feels unsafe. The Sigma female notices it right away. She sees how people silence their opinions just to stay liked. She might stay quiet for a while, observing, but her mind is already drifting toward the exit. She would rather be misunderstood for her honesty than praised for her conformity. She believes real belonging happens when people can stand side by side in their differences without fear. The strength of a group should come from diversity of thought, not blind agreement. So when the atmosphere begins to demand uniformity, she quietly fades out. She doesn't leave with bitterness. She leaves with gratitude for knowing herself well enough not to trade her voice for comfort. To her, individuality isn't rebellion, it's freedom, and she'll never let a crowd take that away. If you're enjoying this video, make sure to leave a like, comment, say hello, and consider subscribing to our channel. And if you'd like to support our channel further, become a member by clicking the join button below. Number 7. Rooms ruled by gossip. Rooms ruled by gossip. A Sigma female can sense the tone of a room long before a word is spoken. When she walks into a space and feels that familiar undercurrent of gossip, the whispering, the smirks, the half-truths dressed as concern, something in her spirit immediately tightens. She knows she's standing in a place where people use others' lives as entertainment, and that's a language she refuses to speak. To her, gossip is more than idle talk. It's an energy exchange that poisons everyone involved. She understands that the moment people gossip with you, they will gossip about you. So she quietly distances herself not out of pride, but out of self-respect. Her empathy won't let her participate in conversations that wound those who aren't even there to defend themselves. Imagine her sitting in a lunchroom or a social gathering where a group starts dissecting someone's personal choices, what they wear, who they date, how they live. Everyone laughs, and for a moment it feels like harmless fun. But she doesn't join in. She sits in silence, feeling the emptiness behind the laughter. She knows that words can bruise just as deeply as actions, and she refuses to be part of that. Sigma females believe that speaking ill of others says more about the speaker than the subject. They find gossip boring because it revolves around judgment, not growth. They would rather talk about ideas, dreams, or lessons learned than about someone else's flaws. When a room is filled with gossip, she feels her peace slipping away, and since peace is something she fiercely protects, She won't hesitate to leave quietly. She may walk out unnoticed, but her silence speaks louder than the noise she leaves behind. For her, dignity is more valuable than belonging, and integrity is worth more than inclusion in any gossip circle. Number 8. Groups where attention is currency. Groups where attention is currency. There's something about attention-driven environments that instantly makes a Sigma female feel out of place. You can see it in her body language, the way she grows quiet while everyone else fights to be noticed. In groups where every story is exaggerated, every moment is a performance, and every gesture is meant to draw eyes, she starts to disconnect. It's not because she dislikes people, it's because she dislikes pretense. Sigma females don't chase visibility, they chase meaning. When they speak, it's not to be heard, it's to connect. So when they find themselves surrounded by people who treat attention like a form of currency, they instinctively step back. They know that in such spaces, value isn't measured by depth or sincerity, but by who can hold the spotlight the longest. Imagine being in a group where everyone competes for validation. Someone tells a story not to share, but to outshine. Another interrupts, desperate to redirect the focus. Compliments are strategic, laughter is timed, and silence feels like failure. A Sigma female notices all of it. She smiles politely, listens quietly, and gradually fades from the center. Her energy can't survive in places where authenticity gets buried under the noise of self-promotion. She's drawn to spaces that don't demand performance, where people can just exist without needing to be the loudest or the most liked. She thrives in meaningful one-on-one conversations where truth replaces theatrics and presence replaces posing. To her, real confidence doesn't seek attention. It holds peace in silence. So while others compete to be seen, she quietly chooses to observe, and in doing so, she often becomes the most magnetic person in the room without trying. Because her power doesn't come from being noticed, it comes from being real. And in a world addicted to attention, that authenticity is her rarest form of rebellion. Number 9. Places that smell of emotional manipulation. There's a certain heaviness that fills the air in places where emotional manipulation thrives. And a Sigma female can sense it the moment she walks in. It's not about what's being said, it's about what's being implied. The quiet pressure to please, the unspoken expectation to agree, the subtle guilt used to control. It all feels off to her spirit. She doesn't always understand it right away, but her intuition does. And when that energy starts to creep in, she leaves without hesitation. Sigma females are highly intuitive. They can detect when emotions are being used as tools rather than truths. When someone tries to guilt-trip them into compliance or use kindness as a trap, they pick up on it instantly. To them, emotional manipulation is one of the most toxic forms of control because it hides behind affection. It looks like care, but smells like ownership. Imagine her in a workplace where her boss uses flattery to push her into working longer hours, or in a relationship where someone says, "If you really loved me, you'd do this." She sees through it every time. The words may sound soft, but the energy behind them feels suffocating. She knows love shouldn't require surrendering her freedom, and respect shouldn't be earned through guilt. What makes Sigma females different is their refusal to explain their boundaries. They won't argue, they won't justify. They'll simply walk away. They've learned that once someone manipulates your emotions, they'll try to make it a pattern. So when a place feels emotionally charged in the wrong way, she doesn't second-guess her instinct. She trusts the discomfort. She understands that peace can't grow in places that feed on control, and rather than staying to prove a point, she chooses distance. Because for the Sigma female, freedom is worth more than approval, and no form of manipulation, no matter how sweetly disguised, will ever make her forget that. Number 10. Spaces where self-awareness is missing for a Sigma female. Being in a space without self-awareness feels like being trapped in a room with no mirrors. Everyone is moving, but no one is seeing. She finds it hard to connect with people who live on autopilot, repeating the same mistakes and never questioning their behavior. It's not that she looks down on them. She simply feels drained by the lack of growth. She thrives on reflection, truth, and accountability. When that's missing, she begins to feel invisible, misunderstood, or even misplaced. Sigma females are naturally introspective. They think deeply about their choices, their emotions, and the kind of energy they bring into the world. So when they're surrounded by people who never stop to ask themselves why they do what they do, why they feel what they feel, she feels the disconnect almost immediately. It's like speaking a language no one else understands. Imagine being in a group where no one ever admits they're wrong. Every argument ends with blame. Every failure is someone else's fault. Conversations are shallow because no one wants to look within. To a Sigma female, that's exhausting. She doesn't need perfection around her, but she needs honesty. She needs people who are willing to grow, not people who defend their flaws like armor. She respects those who can say I was wrong, or I need to work on that. That level of awareness earns her trust faster than charm or intelligence ever could. When she doesn't sense that kind of humility, she retreats quietly. Sigma females don't stay in spaces that refuse to evolve. They know that self-awareness is the foundation of real connection. Without it, conversations feel empty and relationships go in circles. So rather than dimming her insight to fit in, she walks away and chooses solitude over stagnation, because to her growth isn't optional, it's survival in final words. The older you get, the quieter you become, not because you have less to say, but because you finally understand what deserves your energy. That truth defines the Sigma female perfectly. Her silence isn't emptiness, it's wisdom in motion. 11. She doesn't avoid places because she's antisocial or cold. She avoids them because she listens to her intuition louder than she listens to pressure. Her spirit reacts to energy before her mind finds words for it. When something feels wrong, she doesn't argue with the feeling, she trusts it. The Sigma female's avoidance isn't about isolation. It's about alignment. She's drawn to spaces that feed her peace, not her ego. Over time, she's learned that not every crowd deserves her company, and not every connection deserves her depth. So she walks away from anything that demands she shrink, pretend, or play small. What makes her rare is her awareness. She doesn't need to experience chaos to recognize it. She can feel manipulation in a handshake, emptiness in a conversation, or dishonesty behind a smile. Her strength lies in her quiet discernment. She doesn't expose others. She simply exits. And while others may mistake her distance for pride, it's actually self-respect. She knows that peace is expensive and refuses to spend it cheaply. The world might call her mysterious, detached, or even difficult to understand. But the truth is simple. She just values meaning over noise. In the end, the Sigma female doesn't search for perfect spaces. She searches for real ones, places where truth breathes freely, where purpose outweighs popularity, and where her soul can simply be without performance. That's where she belongs, and she knows it the moment she walks in. 12. Thresholds where boundaries are treated as negotiation. When no is heard as maybe, and your time is framed as flexible, the air turns heavy with entitlement. A Sigma female recognizes the subtle push, the repeated asks, the gentle pressure, the calendar suggestions, and she steps out before the erosion begins. Real love adapts to boundaries. Only control tries to edit them. 13. Rooms that reward speed over sincerity. Rapid-fire plans, instant answers, perform now or be forgotten energy. She can feel her depth being traded for pace. She slows the tempo. On purpose, and if the room won't slow with her, she leaves. Substance takes time. Alignment is never urgent. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. I'm your host, Alfred, and I read every comment.